Well, the last time we talked to Glenn Close, the picture was Fatal Attraction. Now in Fatal Liaisons, you are continuing your love affair with the camera in being something of an adventuress. Is it bewildering to you in a way how readily you seem to find success in both extremes of the pictures earlier, like in The Natural, of a woman who's basically sympathetic and one who we tend to see more in an adventurous, intriguing way?
Is it what? What is the question?
Is it bewildering to you how well you seem to take to both extremes, from a heroine to a more of a villainess as well?
It's my craft and profession.
It's just all in a day's work.
Well, if one is lucky enough to get wonderful roles, that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. The costumes themselves must have been both a blessing and a burden at times in the shooting. Could you talk about both aspects?
Well, they were, to me, they were, oh God, a joy. They are magnificent. I don't know if I'll ever have costumes as beautiful as the ones that Jim Atchison designed.
Nobody was going to let you take them home.
I have a few pieces, but I don't. Those dresses are, they should be in a museum somewhere, as far as I'm concerned.
However, in what way, as a modern woman, are you heartily glad that women are not trussed up like that anymore?
Well, in the beginning of the movie, when you see all that dressing, that was what I had to do every day. Those corsets were incredibly tight, and come the end of a shooting day, you're in dire agony. I had huge welts on my body every
Good
night.
heavens!
But
well, I was going to ask you, what effect does that have on a woman's behavior to be confined like that day to day to day to day, do you suppose?
I tend probably not to move around as much. It was salons with people sitting and talking and lounging. And, that's when the chaise longue came in, the long chair. They had to, some of them were so tight, and if the women were round or a little plump, they would tend to get the vapors.
The vapors.
Yeah.
Also about the costumes, are you familiar with the quote from Flaubert that in that age there was enough sensuousness above the bodice to compensate for the modesty below?
I wasn't aware of that
Isn't that
quote.
nice? It's like you're sort of, all the women are pumped up. As a man, I have no earthly idea how that's done, what that's all about.
Well, what it was all about, it was the style of the day. Today we have mini skirts, yet back then they had low-cut dresses.
It almost is a kind of a duplicitous way of looking at a woman, though, to confine her in modesty on the one hand and yet expose her so sensuously on the other.
It could be quite sexy.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, at this time you were pregnant, were you not?
No, I had just given birth.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, so you were having a small baby on your hands during the shooting. How did you work all that out?
Well, I had a wonderful, wonderful nanny who I was lucky enough to have. She came to France, and she had Annie in the morning and would bring her to the set at lunch, and I'd feed Annie lunch and have her around and see her during setups or whenever I could get away from the set, and usually have her with me when I drove home, and then depending on my energy, I'd be with her at night, but at that point she was still waking up during the night, so
yes.
I was pretty tired.
Indeed. There are so many things I'd like to talk about in such a short period. For example, there are scenes that, like bookends, balance the film. You open up looking into a mirror, and we end with you doing something quite different to the makeup on your face. Could you describe for us those two, the open and the close?
You think I should?
Well, I'd like to hear how you talk about it, maybe.
Well, I think you've described it pretty well yourself.
Yeah.
It shows in the beginning, the end shows where she's come to.
Merciless close-ups, or is that a good word to use?
Well, I don't know. Do I look terrible?
Well, this film has more close-ups, I think, than any recent film I've seen. And how does it make you feel to have a camera that tight on you? I mean, the entire face now is...
Well, it didn't bother me, actually. I think it's a very intimate film, and it's a film about nuance and what's being not said is just as important as what's being said, how people look at each other, their contact, their eye contact. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. And I love the way Stephen Frears shot it. He has these magnificent costumes and these these incredible settings, and yet he almost takes it all for granted. He focuses in very much on the people, and it makes it very accessible, I think, and very compelling and very modern and very sexy, because you're right there.
Do you think in this modern day we congratulate ourselves on being so honest that we look upon the duplicity of the 18th century as something that is departed and gone? I mean, who are we kidding, right?
Yeah, right.
What about that? Do you think maybe in Deceit there was more truth among these characters than is in the truth we boast of today?
I think in many ways there was. Mm-hmm.
Is this a period of time that would have interested you as a woman to have lived in?
Not at all. First of all, it was too smelly. They were pretty smelly.
And the perfumes to cover it up were even more smelly.
Right. Not very many real creature comforts, but no, I think it was a very difficult time for women. Pretty desperate. You know, it was all about sex and power, and that probably hasn't changed very much, but women were pawns, and to a large degree.
But as your character points out, and I'll let you paraphrase this, inasmuch as women were pawns, they gained a certain amount of power themselves.
They did within the context that they were allowed to operate in, which is basically social intrigue. If you were a queen, you had power, though of course you know had all your. But otherwise, there wasn't much outlet for a woman. She was used as a political player in who she was married off to, and so I admire my character for sticking up for herself and trying to, not be manipulated.
A virtuoso in deceit, whose favorite word is cruelty. You love that, don't you?
Virtuoso of deceit,
Yeah.
yes. Well, she's very self-aware, much more than he is. She makes no bones about it.
It's been a pleasure to see you again.
Nice to see
The
you.
picture is Fatal Liaisons.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Let me try that again. I knew somebody was going to do that. We're talking about Dangerous Liaisons, and we're both here in Los Angeles. I'm John Tibbetts for KCTV5.